So, is everybody getting hungry, I'm guessing? You know, I have to be honest, when we first got the call from Collision to speak here, my secretary actually rejected the email altogether, assuming that an industrial designer would have no part in an automotive insurance conference. And I had to remind her that Collision was about ideas, not colliding sheet metal. So, I'm an industrial designer. Some of you know what industrial designers are, and for the most part, I think you can get it down to what we do best is objectifying emotion. You can't hear? Steve, you want to turn me up a little bit? I know, it's loud. Is this better? Yeah? Okay. What in the world does that mean, objectifying emotion? This is what I do every single day. I try to imbue products with a sense of meaning or a certain quality that I try to bring out in product solutions so that it can connect with the end user. If you can connect with the end user, they understand it, they grasp it, they buy it. This is kind of a bitmap of my brain and many other designer types like me. Clearly you can see in these quadrants, I am rather lopsided, very right-brained, like a lot of artists are. I'm always thinking about forward motion. I'm rather disinclined to go backwards. And I find that most creative people could have this kind of personification. So this is an ancient symbol called a triskel. It's a Celtic symbol. And to me, it represents how creativity should be really a lifestyle. It's not something that you just do sometimes to solve a problem like many corporations think you should. It's something that you do because you love it, you feel it, and to fully express yourself as a creative individual, to me, is the only way to live. I personally am very inspired by painting and writing my own music, and design is just one manifestation. Even though I work about 60 or 70 hours a week, to me, it's what relaxes me. If I get on a plane and it's turbulent, I get my sketchbook out. It relaxes me. Creativity should be fun and relaxing. When I was starting my career, this was product inspiration. When I would go to a party, back when I was starting my career, people would look at me quizzically and say, "So you're an industrial designer? Do you design factories?" And it's no wonder, because at the time, that was the inspiration. So, is design emotional? Well, what do you think? If you saw this computer, is that powerful? Yes? Is it scary? You bet it is. So nowadays, things have changed big time. Products, great products, are evident everywhere. You have many in your pockets right now. You're holding some. You might be wearing glasses that you feel really good about, you love. Design has become our modern day culture. Design is really, it's replaced so many other forms of culture, whether we like it or not. There are beautiful things to be had by everyone. Design is very accessible. Even in many parts of the developing world, design is pretty accessible. But with that comes a huge responsibility, because paradoxically, our society is also plagued by a lot of mediocrity. There's just too much stuff. If you go to CES, or if on your way here you picked up a Sky Mall on your airline, you see what I'm talking about. There's so much mediocrity. It's just, I just want to, it makes me so mad. And as a designer with more than a touch of OCD, I have this tendency to want to fix everything. And our world has so many different design problems. There's maddening design problems no matter where you look. After you've been practicing design for a while, you realize that there are a few key things that are really meaningful to design to really create deep innovation could be comparable to, say, a Chinese proverb that I like to say, if the wind doesn't blow, the grass doesn't stir. That's when you are being courageous and you are being pretty sometimes crazy in how you innovate. It's important to invent things that deserve to be here. It's important to do things like imbue emotion in technology so that people can grasp it. I think it's important to give a voice to things that otherwise can't speak. But most importantly would be to understand the psychology of your users and also the psychology of the design team that you're working with. So much of my career has been developing relationships between people so that they can create, so they're comfortable with the creative process. And to get a dialogue between not only individuals in a design team, but between your design team and the corporation that you're working with. Remember, I'm a consultant, so I've been doing this my whole career as a consultant. And I love the narrative that you can create with your client and the client with their customer. Speaking about the designer first, because understanding what's going on in the mind of that designer is so key. What we do is we try to create environments that are so ripe for creativity to occur. It's difficult to do. Designers are creative, sensitive types, and they need the support, they need the structure, they need a value system that allows them to really go out on a limb. As a matter of fact, we make it pretty accepted to be strange. Strange is a virtue, not a liability in my company. And this allows us to do some wild things. The other thing is you have to create super environments. So we have a studio in downtown San Francisco and one in San Jose. One is in a horse stable and the other is in a gear factory from 1945. An untouched, unrenovated gear factory. We've got chains and pulleys and cranes. We've got a 4-ton crane hanging on our ceiling that we use to present little wearable models. Little tiny things. We move them over on a chain.
Have you guys not heard anything I've said? Were you guys hearing me before? Yes? Okay, wow. Okay. No, I need this one. So again, the creative environment, that's so key to get things right in design. But now getting into the mind of that end user, this is such an important point to really understand what makes them tick. We use a lot of research methods. We use different techniques to uncover these hidden needs in our user groups. And really at the core of almost everything we do, we find that emotion is king. Emotion drives every decision that we make in our lives. It is the strongest motivating force that any of us here have. So what we try to do is pull on the sensory brain by creating some objects that have tactility and qualities that you can really connect with. We then get people to care by accessing the emotive brain, and then we get people to believe in what they are about to purchase or consider for purchase by appealing to the rational brain. These are all very different factors that people think about when they're going through a product selection, but often subconsciously. So now I'd like to talk about a few projects, some case studies. There are a lot of slides in here, so I'm going to keep it really active. These are things that we've created in the last several years, and I've arranged these in a life spectrum, starting with baby products, going all the way up to senior products. So the first one, some of you may have seen this. This was on one of the covers of the New York Times a few years ago. It's a baby bottle that we designed for this company, Adiri. And baby bottles had been designed the same for over 100 years. They were vessels with gaskets and a cap, a nipple. But do babies want nipples like that? No. They want one like that. It's soft, it's approachable, and to us, the big key innovation here is the fact that we were presenting something that baby wanted, and in turn, mom and dad were able to more readily feed and provide nutrition to that baby. The design got out of the way. The design removed itself from the experience, and therefore it allowed the natural emotion to unfold. We sold this company about 4 years ago after selling about 700,000 of these. Good design often looks easy when you first see it because it looks natural. But to get a product where there aren't any extra pieces that get lost in a dishwasher, that have multiple functions that are overlapping, like you can see how the silicone is actually coming up to create, the way it's molded to create a seal for the cap on the bottom. And you'll notice there's a big vent inside the cap, so there are never bubbles that occur, so babies do not become colic. It's just cute. Some of you may have seen us on Shark Tank with this product. About my two other co-founders, husband and wife, went on Shark Tank, and 4 of the sharks wanted this and supported it. So lunchboxes. Haven't seen innovation either in a long, long time. Lunchboxes smell, they get dirty, they're not customizable. Your child tires of the title on that lunchbox very quickly. So we decided to create a structure, a substructure, that we then put lids on, caps, that have customizable panels, of which you can get many different kinds. And we pay artists royalties to contribute to the artwork for these. So you can upgrade that lunchbox at any time. Kids love it. It's become like a little cult item. And these are selling in about 60 different stores right now. Now, one thing we heard was from parents, can you design a soft lunchbox? So today I am announcing for the first time, it's never been shown before, is our soft lunchbox. And it's very simple, all customizable fabric, and it folds down like a little fort. Kids tell us, oh, that looks fun to eat out of. It also keeps the food on a little platter there so that it's a little bit cleaner. It folds up flat, stuff it away, and these will sell for like $15. It's a great, great new product. Okay, now moving up in the life spectrum. I don't know about you guys, I have teenage sons, and when they complained about the fact that that bike helmet that they had to wear on their way to school did not fit in their backpack, does not fit in their locker, and it gets stolen because, especially when it rains, it's left out and gets stolen. So we decided to create what we call Halfdome. It's a bike helmet that unlatches, and it flips over and drops in itself. That should be a video. Have you seen that video yet? No video. It also stacks. It's about the thickness of a book. Okay, now what happens when that teenager decides they want to drive? So we get involved in some really interesting industries. So oil filters. People rarely think about oil filters, that clunky Fram oil filter that hangs underneath your engine. We were approached by this startup company. They had a brilliant idea that they could make a lifetime oil filter. What's great about that? Well, in the life of one automobile, you will go through 50 oil filters. And every year alone in the United States alone, there are over 400 million oil filters thrown away. They're landfill. It's a serious problem. So working with this company, Hub, we actually started thinking about what kind of contaminants are we trying to prevent flowing from and through your combustion engine, and how can we stop those contaminants in a more efficient manner. So we also work in the medical field, and we found that it was possible to weave surgical stainless steel wire into a weave that was matched to the size of the contaminants. And then we made a double filter, a filter inside a filter. Each filter is composed of this surgical stainless steel wire. It's all stainless steel and aluminum. This lasts a lifetime. You will never throw this away. This will outlast your car. We just started shipping this one. It has kind of an industrial machine aesthetic. So talking about these emotional factors, it has to fit. This should not be fun like that baby bottle or the lunchbox. This is serious. Race car drivers love this, and you will soon all be having these in your car, I hope. We also did a big one for a truck. Same principles. Beautiful. Some of you right now might be using, does anybody have a Livescribe pen? This has become popular. When you write with this pen, it digitizes what you are writing instantly on your iPhone or your iPad. Very popular in college. You can imagine somebody's got a bit of hangover and they want to take notes. They can go back to their notes later and listen to the whole lecture, and they can see it on their iPhone as well. Working with our client, they really felt that it was essential to get a design that was so classic, so beautiful, that everyone at any age would just see it and love it. We designed each and every tiny little detail. Everything just oozes quality. It's very premium. When you see a detail like that, which is only a ½ an inch in diameter, that turns the unit on, but that is so difficult to do in production, to get that tool just right. One of the big accomplishments here as well is getting everything packed inside this beautiful little thing. Because at the end of the day, people, you guys don't care necessarily how this thing is made. Well, I'm going to guess a lot of you here do, but a lot of people don't. They just want something that works. Give me something that works. Make it beautiful, make it relevant. Us designers have to do all that crunching and hard work, designers, engineers, and marketing folks, to get it down into something that's beautiful. But there's a ton of great technology inside this thing. Some of you may have seen this announced. This was announced about 8 months ago. As I'm standing here gesturing uncontrollably about just expression, which is very normal, Nod Labs realized you can control computers and televisions and other electronic devices with something that's in the form of a ring. So we started to conceptualize ring forms to create gestural motions that control electronics. We packed all these electronics inside a ring. Now we're at a time where we can actually do this kind of thing. This is the smallest wearable out there yet. We're doing quite a few wearables. Here you can see some of the exploration, and then finally the device itself. It's worn on index finger or the middle finger, and you just wipe your way through, scroll your way through, wave your way through all this content. Gamers like it. If you have a lot of, well, even I should be wearing one right now. It controls anything. We also worked with Google on the Chromecast. Some of you have a Chromecast. It's a brilliant product because it's $35 and allows you to stream movies and content to your television. When they first came to us, when they were describing this capability that Chromecast had, we thought that it was going to be another set-top box, and it wasn't that interesting. But after we worked with their engineers and they described this casting capability, taking content on your phone like Hulu and just throwing it up onto your screen, the first time we saw that, we were just blown away. It was just freaking cool, really cool. And it allowed us to just replace all that junk, all these boxes that are typically sitting in everyone's home theater system. So we helped with many aspects of this, but the industrial design is surprisingly effective. Similar to the baby bottle, it's about getting out of the way. This is a product that you don't put out in front of your television. You stick it behind the TV. It literally disappears. So it took a lot of chutzpah, I think, to say, okay, we're going to design something that you'll enjoy at the point of purchase, but then it's gone. You stick it behind your TV and it disappears. So they've done really, really well with this. Many, many millions of these have been sold, and it's kind of a kick when I see the interface, knowing that there's a Chromecast behind the scenes. Nike, we also helped Nike with the Fuel Band. Some of you have probably owned a Fuel Band before. Nike had a vision of actually incorporating interesting software into a wearable device that would allow people to kind of get off the couch and start moving. So it took, believe it or not, several years of our engineers working, many, many trips to China. I think we went to China 40 times to get this into production. There is, even though it looks very simple, it is not. And to develop something so sleek, so slim, so minimal, where it feels like magic, sometimes means that you have to do magical things in developing it. And that's exactly what we had to do here. You can see how this is made as you go through this exploded view here. Starting with a plastic injection mold, the magnesium, the circuit board, and then we injection mold a translucent elastomer over the top of everything. It's like my arm. There's no air inside this device. It was truly transcendent in its accomplishment. This is one of our latest projects, the Hi-Fi video conferencing system. You've all used Skype. Some of you have used telepresence. Skype is challenged. It's jerky, you get cut off, the setup time is sometimes difficult. If you go to meeting or WebEx has a similar problem. Hi-Fi was aiming at the middle market, a $700 device that could be placed in every conference room, and it allows 32 people to walk into the conference room and automatically be hooked up to be talking to any remote office or even people that are even on their smartphones. Just for reference, that device is about this long. It's made out of, Steve, is there a video that you can make run? Not sure. That's not the video. Again, like Livescribe, one of the real keys here was to get all of this great technology, including all of the processing inside this device to make this work as a standalone unit. Nobody wants all these extra accessories. They need the standalone solutions now. They want it fast. So what you see there is a die-cast aluminum part that we then machine. It's just an extraordinary piece of art in the way that it's made. Drop cam. I'm guessing many of you have drop cam security cameras. Two guys entered our office a few years ago and said we had this idea for a security camera whereby the app would help control the security camera and really make this an engaging experience. At the time, security cameras were not cool or sexy at all. They looked like just awful cameras that would hang up like surveillance cameras that were kind of intimidating. So we were inspired by the humanity and again the emotional content. How can we create a product that did not look like a surveillance camera but also solved a problem? And that little sketch there on the left was really the genesis idea about how to get movement, a 3-axis movement so that no matter where the subject was that you wanted to point this camera at, to keep track of it, whether it's a pet in the corner of the room, whether it's looking out the back door at your property, what have you. This pitch, roll, and yaw concept allowed us to solve a problem in a very unique way, creating a form that was never before seen. It was small, it was tidy, it told its story. It told its story without you having to read anything about it. Just looking at it, you know how it works. You know how it adjusts, you know how it rotates, pivots, swivels, you just get it. Again, those are the subtle emotional cues that we try to build into technology solutions when we're thinking about the design. It's become our most copied design. We are now up to more than 20 companies have copied our drop cam. You can see them, and unfortunately many of them are in China. Another interesting project, Eton. Now you start thinking about a little bit order in your life, you're concerned about your well-being. So Eton actually produces multi-purpose emergency radios used to help you find where you are, give you weather information, and help you in a case of especially like floods and hurricanes and earthquakes. And we've designed several iterations of these. Many hundreds of thousands of these have been made. And again, these are almost like cartoons of themselves. They're so overexpressive on purpose. We really need to reach out and grab people around the throat to say, hey, we've got you covered. You're afraid, we've got you covered. We're trying to mitigate fear with this design. Again, an emotion. This is a power generator. We designed the Dell Precision line to be very, very powerful. So we used forms and surfaces and geometries that gave one the sense that there is lots of throughput here with this device. That became one of their best-selling computers. Still on the market. We designed a zero-client computer. This is really taking computer to a new level. That's a computer, it's 2 inches high, it's 100 times smaller than a PC, it uses 5 watts of energy, and it's die-cast zinc. Here you can see the connectors in the back. It's heavy, and it's beautiful. Through its nothingness, it's called a zero computer, and our client kind of laughed at us, and we said, we need to create a zero design, a design that just sort of blended in, and through that blending came its power. That austerity, the sheer austerity of this product is where it has its energy. TP-Link. Does anybody know who TP-Link is? I hope so. 5 years ago, nobody heard of them. They found us. We started working with them. They're in China. They now have 70% market share in China, and they have 40% market share around the world for networking products. And with the newfound independence, I'll call it, in China, there's a celebration of freedom. So we went crazy with design. Every designer gets an opportunity to design a product. We designed more than 30 products for TP-Link. And I'm just going to blast through some of these. These are routers and cameras and phones and things like that. And they let us get very expressive with everything that we designed. So we actually build in kind of symbols about connectivity, and the people, especially in China, are just so responding to these designs. And the crazier we get, the more they like it. It's really a new frontier. Beautiful materials. They sell more than 3 million a month of that router. Sorry, that router. 3 million a month. We're using everything we can, every single one of our faculties as designers, to really reach out and touch people in whatever way that they can. This router has antennas that sort of deploy. All of this is in production, except that one. Sometimes we like to, what I call, reveal the inner faculty of something, when you take the real essence of a product and pull it out from within. These are the standard polymorphic antennas that exist in all of your routers at home. We just put it behind a window and we turned it into a piece of art. Label printers. Man, who has heard of innovation in label printers? We wanted to reinvent the category. So this is for Leitz. This is sold mostly in Europe right now. It's obvious how you pick it up, and it's a very strong identity, very emotional identity. The cartridge is disposable, and it's completely biodegradable. It's all paper pulp. The NVRAM chip allows the printer to read exactly how much paper is left in the roll, and even the package itself is completely compostable. Finally, we're getting up in age. I talked about the life spectrum. Many people have sleep apnea, and that's what they deal with. We worked with a startup company in the Silicon Valley to develop this, which uses a completely different principle. Instead of blowing air in the nose, which feels like you're drowning, we actually placed a mouth guard that pulls the soft palate and the tongue forward, allowing you to breathe. It's really extraordinary. It's about a quarter of the weight of a CPAP machine. It's about an eighth of the size. So it is doing quite well, and I love this. This, again, it was like when I was talking about deep innovation. This is what I'm talking about. That's the experience of using ApniCure. Lastly, I can't talk too much about this, but we've been working with a team of doctors to develop an alternative surgery to a carotidectomy. When you have plaque buildup in the carotid artery, they typically have to go in and they open up your neck, or they go through your femoral artery and they bring it up over the aortic arch, and embolisms are sometimes broken loose when you do that. So we actually are using a reverse flow working with vascular surgeons that developed this idea of when you put a tourniquet on one of the carotid artery and then you sever it to insert a catheter, you can actually get the blood to flow out of the brain. And through this device that we've been developing, I'm only showing one slide of this because this is brand new, and the blood will go through this device, allows the doctor to do microsurgery in the plaque area, and all of that junk comes out through this filter and back in the leg. So it's an endovascular procedure. We're actually kind of like a heart-lung machine. You take blood out, you process it, you put it back in the body. That's what we're doing here. So anyway, these are just a few quick case studies. I know that was a lot of content, and there's a ton of great stuff on our website. So those, if you enjoyed that, you'll see a lot more at whipsaw.com. It's nice talking to you guys. I know it's kind of loud in here. It's hard for a speaker, I think, but I've enjoyed talking to you guys.
So we have. If anybody has a question, we can take one or two. Just raise your hand.
Any questions?
Over here.
I got one over here.
PJ's got you.
I'm coming.
Yeah, two things. Number one, what's your Twitter handle and your Twitter account? And number two, for the routers that you showed us, do you guys have any influence or control over the software experience, or is it purely hardware? And how do you, if you don't have control over it, how does that feel if you can't control the software side of it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. About a third of the work that we do requires a UI component. So I didn't talk specifically about UX or UI, but of course, when you're developing any technology, you've got to really understand the complete experience, and that means you've got to do great UI, great UX. Our focus is mostly on the visual design and engaging the customer with a really thorough experience that helps people understand the task at hand, things like setup procedures on a router. But on almost every one of those devices, we also did what's on screen. Yeah.
And your Twitter?
I'll give you the details of that later. That's not as interesting. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Over at the back there.
Hi. You talked about the austerity of the Zero computer, I think it was.
Yes.
And then you went on to talk about incredible creativity and design in China. Do you see austerity and creativity as competing, or are they both parts of the same thing?
That's one of the kind of the age-old questions about design. It's like, when you try to create simplicity. So austerity and simplicity are maybe synonyms, and simplicity is often the hardest thing to do in design when you can strip something down to its essence. It takes a lot of discipline. I think the two go hand in glove. They are not at odds with one another. They are completely together. And you can really find, when you are designing, I love that moment when you expose your solution, especially if you're being austere. If it still communicates, sometimes you go past a line where it goes from being banal or dull to all of a sudden like, whoa, what's this? This is cool. Partly because of what it lacks, and more importantly, what it suggests. It's like when you meet someone, maybe you get a feeling like, okay, they didn't really tell me much, but I'm curious about that gesture, I'm curious about what they're wearing, and I'm intrigued. Design can act the same way. I think you had a question.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for talking with us today. I have a question about measurement of the effectiveness of capturing that emotion. Do you use tools? Are they usually group studies? Is it purely based on observation of effectiveness? How can you tell that you're effectively capturing that emotion as best as possible and thus making it work?
Right. Like I mentioned, there are many different tools that we use that I don't have time to get into in a 20-minute talk, but that is the single biggest challenge, is to understand kind of these hidden dimensions. It's easy to go into an ethnographic setting and go into a hospital and watch somebody do something, but it's much harder to get that doctor to talk to you about what they're feeling and thinking about this procedure. So you need to warm them up. You need to let them know that you're there to help them, that you are not just some design consultant coming in to tell them how to do something. Nobody likes to be told what to do. So we find that, you know, good observation skills, the same way that maybe you go into, they say if you go into the woods and you sit for 15 minutes, only after 15 minutes do the animals in nature start to expose themselves to you. We find the same thing when we're doing our research. You just have to like be with the problem. We also try to internalize the problem the way that maybe a method actor tries to internalize their character. We become the user. We actually get deep into the experience itself. There's also other tools, like we do a lot of focus group studies. We'll work with our clients and go, you know, behind a two-way mirror and watch people interact with things. And we're always looking for something insightful, something that you don't get, you know, you wouldn't get in a product requirements document. And I love those moments of inspiration when you find out, oh, that's the problem, that's it. And we'll stop everything, and I get super excited. That's the moment I live for as a designer. I'm looking for that insightful, like, aha, that's it.
Okay, Dan, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much. If you could give Dan a round of applause. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.